The Know Your Foes series continues with Michigan. I'm Rajiv. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective. Woo-hoo! Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, back together on a midweek Know Your Foe episode. This week, we're covering Michigan. As I said a couple weeks ago, it's going to go a bit out of order. I'm just arranging different interviews with folks. We've got a great guest today, Jerry from the 3 Glasses of Whisky podcast. It's actually a college football podcast, but he is a Michigan fan and has that program down. So we're going to talk to him about the Michigan game a bit, and then Justin and I are going to be back here afterwards to react to it. All right, we are joined by Jerry from the 3 Glasses of Whisky college football podcast. Jerry, how you doing? Welcome to the Bucky Report.
Thanks for having me. Things are great here in Pittsburgh. I'll tell you what, I'm biting my fingernails. I'm so anxious for the season to start. So,
man, we are like under 50 days away. We also just can't wait. I'm every time like July, August come, I'm just getting geeked up and psyched up for the football season. I can't wait. Let's start here, Jerry. Tell us a little bit about what you do. So 3 Glasses of Whisky podcast, where can people find your work? And you cover all of college sports, right? Or college football?
We do. So 3 Glasses of Whisky college football podcast. It's a podcast that we talk all about college football. You know, I'm a Michigan fan. I try not to be biased during my show, but you know, every Saturday night we'll be doing a live show at 11 o'clock when the games are ending, and then there'll be one more episode during the week where we pick the games for the following week. Last year, I think my record was like 50 and 27 picking games each week. So nice. I did a really good job. I think it's going to be much harder this year, but we're found on anywhere you can find a podcast. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube. Our website is 3glassesofwhiskey.com, and we're all over social media. So whatever social media, except for TikTok, you can find us.
Great. Excellent. And I'm glad to have you with the show and obviously here to talk Michigan. So let's just start here. 8-5 last year, 5-4 in conference. Sherrone Moore is the head coach. Obviously, other than the last 2 games of last season, which Michigan fans love, beating Ohio State, beating Alabama, that's great. Not obviously the best season. Can you kind of give us, first of all, the overall pulse of the program right now? How do you feel about Sherrone Moore kind of in that post-Jim Harbaugh era? Is there confidence that he's going to really take this program back to prominence?
That's a great question. So first, I think looking back at last year, 8-5, not the year we wanted. The 2 big wins at the end, but frankly, that Ohio State game, that could easily have been a loss. And then there are a couple other games, USC, that could have easily have been a loss. In fact, it looked like it would have been, except for a long run at the end. And then there were a couple games that they could have maybe won, like Washington and Illinois, but they just didn't have the QB play. So I think when you're looking at the pulse this year, I think from the fans' eye, anything better than what we had at quarterback last year.
Right.
You and I could be throwing the ball, and it's going to be better. And I don't want to lay it on thick on the quarterback because I don't think Warren was that bad last year. But the problem was the quarterbacks weren't great, and the receivers didn't have any separation from the D-backs. I mean, there was nowhere to throw the ball, even when he did throw a good ball. So I think when looking at this year with Bryce Underwood, I mean, that was a major recruiting win. I'm glad they handed them the bag of money to switch from LSU because he is all upside. And I think there may be some bumps along the way this year because he's a freshman, but I think he has superstar talent. All the reports are saying he looks incredible. But still, as a freshman, I mean, you remember last year, like Riola for Nebraska, superstar, but he had his bumps. And I think Underwood will have some bumps. As for Moore, I think the jury's still out on him, frankly. He did great when he filled in for Harbaugh in a few games, the championship season. Last year, you know, the offensive line didn't look good. The offense in general didn't look good. And, you know, he's doing okay on the recruiting trail. But I think in-game coaching is yet to be seen. And I think the jury's still out on Sharon Moore. So I'm hoping, but it's too early for me to say yes, he's the right guy. Right now, I'm questioning if he's the right guy.
I mean, a lot of Badger fans feel the same way about our coach, Luke Fickell. It's way too early to tell if he's the right guy, but it hasn't really been exactly what we wanted so far. I'm glad you brought up Bryce Underwood. Obviously, that's the big name everyone's talking about. You look at some Michigan fans and some publications will tell you, oh, yeah, they're going to have a great year, Bryce Underwood. But you brought up Dylan Raiola, perfect example of a freshman that didn't kind of had ups and downs last year, didn't really show his full potential. You got a new offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey. Tell us a little bit about him and how you think he's going to fit in with Bryce Underwood. Do you really think Bryce Underwood is going to come out? And you said he's going to have ups and downs, but is he a guy that can win you 9 games potentially? I mean, how do you feel like he fits in with Chip Lindsey, and what do you feel like Bryce Underwood does well?
Okay, so let's start with Underwood, then we'll go over to Lindsey. Yes, I think Underwood can win 9 games for Michigan. In fact, that's what I would peg them at, 9-3. But there are a lot of iffy games in there. But talent-wise, I think he's generational, right? You know, thinking back just to other superstars, Winston when he was at Florida State, Trevor Lawrence, those guys came in as freshmen. They were rock stars freshman year. Most quarterbacks don't do that. So Underwood, he can throw the ball. He has a strong arm. He can run the ball. He's accurate. I'm expecting big things. But again, I still think there are going to be those bumps and bruises along the way. But he is the guy to take them to the promised land. That just may not be this year.
Right.
In regards to Lindsey, you know, I have a lot of hope because last year the offense was dismal. Lindsey, I mean, he coached the kid from North Carolina, 3rd-round draft pick, Drake May. He had an open offense, and he is talking explosive and physical. And I love hearing physical because that's what made Michigan great these last 4 years, being physical. They haven't been explosive the last 4 years. They were good with McCarthy. I mean, I thought he was a great quarterback, but they're not explosive. When I think of Oregon, Ohio State, that's explosive. So if he can combine those two like he's preaching, I think, again, it's going to be a marriage made in heaven with Bryce Underwood leading that attack. So I'm excited for Lindsey. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring. Underwood's been saying to the media, this is not the Michigan offense that you saw last year. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. Now, I think they're going to still have some challenges, though, on offense. Not all of them are going to be Bryce Underwood, though.
So outside of Bryce Underwood, tell me a little bit more about the offense. What's the strongest position unit on your offense right now that you would say? It
has to be the running back room. You know, we got the kid from Alabama, Justice Hayes. Marshall, he started against Alabama last year in the bowl game. He was a beast in that game. I mean, he carried players. So without question, running back room, solid as can be. In fact, hopefully we land a 5-star recruit shortly in the next few weeks. Hitter if he ends up picking Michigan. But this year, running backs are solid. Tight ends are solid. Keep your eyes out for those two. Weakness, offensive line. In wide receiver, I would say wide receiver. The wide receiver room is probably the weakest link on the whole team.
Wow.
And
that's not typical for a Michigan team.
It's not, but if you think about the last 4 years, it really has been. They have not had superstar receivers over the last 4 years. They had Roman Wilson. They had guys that would make great plays in big games, but they have not had the guys that they had in the 90s, in the early 2000s, like when Michigan was like consistently contending. Now they've added through the transfer portal. They got a kid from Indiana, McCauley. He was hurt most of last year. Hopefully he can add some talent to that position. And they're going to count on, a couple of the receivers from last year to make some plays. But it's a weakness. I mean, Underwood's only going to be as good as the guys he's throwing to, right? Like, he can put the ball there, but if they're not getting separation and they're not making plays, it may be tough sledding. And then the offensive line, last year I think it showed that they weren't as dominant as the previous 3 years. They lost a couple of players. They lost a lot of depth on offensive line through the transfer portal. I'm not afraid to see those players go. Frankly, most of them were players like I barely knew, right? But they added a couple starters through the transfer portal. One's from D2, so we'll see how he pans out at this level. But those are the question marks. They're going to go as far as that offensive line takes them. And if the wide receiver room can just increase a little bit, if they can just improve a little bit from last year, maybe they can put some points up.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly any improvement offensively is going to be a big step in the right direction for Michigan. There's no doubt about that. The strength, of course, of last year's team, the defense. I mean, you've allowed 10 points against Ohio State. You only one team, Oregon, scored over 27 against you. How's that? How's the defense looking? What's the strongest unit on the defense and the weakest?
Well, Texas took us to school as well last year. They took the defense to school as well. But in Ohio State, that was all because of Ryan Day. That's why they held them to 10 points. But the strongest, their front seven. Their front seven, specifically their defensive line, is loaded, and they have depth. I mean, they're big, they're fast, and they're strong. They got added a couple players from the transfer portal, one from Alabama, and one from Clemson. That defensive line is going to be incredible. And you saw some of that last year in the bowl game and the game against Ohio State. Well, the game against Ohio State, they still had Graham and Grant. But the bowl game, that defensive line, those guys are all back. So Stort's gone. But it's plug and play on the defensive line. They're probably too deep. They have Rashawn Benny. He's a beast. Defensive line is probably one of the best in the country. And then they have two stud linebackers with Barsham and Hausner. So all strength. Questions are in the secondary, though. There are some questions. I mean, they have a couple returning starters from the secondary. They lost Will Johnson. They got some help in the portal for depth. But there are a couple guys, one guy, Hill, he's probably a year or two away from being a superstar. But I think he'll be good. But I think if that defensive front seven doesn't get pressure on the quarterback, the back end is going to suffer. I think that's what will make them good if there's a lot of pressure up front. So
it sounds like that's really the way to attack Michigan this year is through the air, right? I mean, because it's going to be very difficult to run the ball against that front seven. If teams are going to attack you, what is that overall? You mentioned on the offense, you also mentioned offensive line and wide receivers. You mentioned defensive backs. How do you think teams attack you if they're going to beat you?
All right. So defensively, when they're attacking Michigan, it's put as much pressure as you can on that offensive line. Without question. I mean, they have to prove themselves. This is not the line from a few years ago where it was draft pick after draft pick. They have to prove themselves. And frankly, their run blocking wasn't great last year, nor was their pass blocking. And play tight on those wide receivers because I'm not convinced that they can separate. Defensively, if you're an offense against Michigan, I think Texas really showed the blueprint last year. Texas threw the ball on the outside, threw it on the outside, made the big guys run. They stretched the field sideline to sideline. Those big guys got tired, and then they pounded the rock up the middle. I think that's the solution this year as well. Make the big guys run, get them tired. I mean, they're deep. They can rotate, but you get them moving a lot and then run it up the middle. Don't try to run up the middle straight up like Ohio State did last year. Get them moving, get them tired. That will ease up the pass rush, and then throw the ball because I think their back end's susceptible.
Tell me what Michigan fans think of Wisconsin. I mean, obviously you being someone who covers kind of the Big Ten in general, do you see it as a tough road game or kind of a bit of a speed bump? We're not quite where we have been in years past, but what do Michigan fans think of the game this year going to Madison?
So in my mind, Wisconsin's always one of those teams that can beat you any year. I mean, you think back to some games, before the last 4 years, Michigan had talent. Those games at Wisconsin, I mean, Harbaugh took it on the chin a few times with Wisconsin. So I remember the one time I was like, for the first time ever, I was like, maybe we should get rid of this guy, right? So Wisconsin's one of those teams I think it's hard to hate in the Big Ten. I really do. I think the game's going to be competitive this year, maybe even more competitive than you think. But I think it's going to be pretty evenly matched, frankly. I'm going to give Michigan the advantage because it's at Michigan.
Yeah.
If it was at Wisconsin, I personally would probably call it a coin flip. Now, I'm not sure about Wisconsin's quarterback situation. I'll be honest. If they have some quarterback play, it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I read that wrong. It's a road game for us, not for you guys. So we have Billy Edwards, he transferred from Maryland. So he's hopefully going to be a lot better than our previous quarterback, which was just not there. But yeah, listen, Wisconsin fans definitely have some confidence here. There's no doubt about it. Like going to Michigan, yes, but a Michigan that has trouble offensively and Bryce Underwood. I really equate Underwood to Raiola and what he did last year. Very highly touted, very talented. The question is, can Chip Lindsey get out of him what people expect to get out of him? But it's going to be a very interesting game. We'll end here, Jerry. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Overall, Vegas has you 9.5. That's the over/under for this team. You got not the most difficult schedule, really. I mean, you don't have to play Oregon. You don't have to play Penn State. You have Ohio State at home. What's your record prediction for this Michigan team?
Well, the guys in Vegas, they always have this down pat.
Yeah.
Right. The casinos aren't there for no reason.
Right.
They put the number right where it has to be. I'm going to say 9-3 this year. I think there is a chance. I mean, if Underwood does light it up and the receivers can produce a little bit, they could go 10-2. And just as easily, they could go 5-7. And I mean that. If that offensive line is terrible, it can easily go backwards. 5-7. There are a lot of coin flip games on their schedule. I mean, Oklahoma, that's going to be a great game. Coin flip. Wisconsin, very close to a coin flip. Washington is probably a coin flip, as is USC, but they're going out to USC, so I'm going to say that's a loss. I don't have confidence against Ohio State. And it kills me as a fan to say that. I do see that that's going to be a loss. I think they have vengeance on their mind for last year. But Nebraska, that can go either way as well. But I'm gonna be optimistic. I love Bryce Underwood. I love the defense. I'm going with 9-3.
I don't think you're really that far off, again, given the schedule. I mean, I think the schedule kind of sets up someone nicely for you. Some of those tougher games are at home. Obviously, at Nebraska, at Oklahoma certainly is a tough one. But, yeah, I mean, Ohio State at home and you don't play some of those other the big boys in the conference. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. One quick thing I want to ask you, the 3 Glasses of Whiskey part of your podcast. We have a lot of whiskey fans on our podcast. Tell us how does whiskey go into your podcast?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking. So, first of all, I enjoy a glass of whiskey, and the podcast started because one of my best friends, right? We used to talk football and we'd be drinking whiskey and smoking cigars. I'm like, we need to record this, right? And so during the show, I'll talk about what whiskey I'm drinking, try to give a fun fact about the whiskey, give some notes on it. Now, I think I have a good palate, but I'm not the guy that's going to tell you all the florals and all that stuff. But again, similar to like what I do for college football from a fan's perspective, from somebody that enjoys whiskey, I talk about it a little bit. I always talk about what cigar I smoke. Here's a Padermo. I'm going to light up when we're done. And so we have a couple glasses during the show, and I try to encourage our friends, hey, if you're listening to us, pour yourself one as well and enjoy it.
I love it. We'll go check out 3 Glasses of Whiskey college football podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for joining us, Jerry. Appreciate your time.
Pleasure being on your show.
Okay. That was Jerry from the 3 Glasses of Whiskey podcast. I really like the whiskey concept. I know when you originally started podcasting in the world, you guys did beer roundtables. I like the idea of drinking whiskey when you're doing a podcast.
If we're sipping it, I'm on board with that. We can do that.
I mean, I should have had some whiskey in honor of that for doing this right now. But anyway, so you got to hear what Jerry had to say about Michigan. Obviously, I think this is interesting. Michigan is one of the most hard
polarizing
programs in the country. Like some people you hear will say, "Oh, this team's going to be totally bad. They're no offense still. They're just not going to be good." And then other people are going to say Bryce Underwood is going to be the next coming of Tom Brady in Michigan, and it's just going to be amazing. What's your kind of overall take on everything you heard from Jerry, and then also kind of where Michigan is right now?
I felt like Jerry had a pretty good feel for what I expected for somebody who was even keel and realistic with the program. And I think that's what I want to hear when somebody kind of gives me a feedback on it. Like, be realistic. Like, don't just blow smoke and act like every position is like an NFL setup. Like, Wisconsin's not that way. You and I would both agree there's position groups that we're not in love with.
Right.
But I felt like he was pretty realistic about it. And I think for me, what comes down to this season for Michigan is I feel like I was a lot more right than the national consensus was that Michigan was going to be good again last year. And I said, you have a first-time coaching staff that's going to be hit or miss on this, and they could very well not be great. And they were 7-5. So I kind of stick with that, and I say you're going to find out this year whether this is a staff that is actually going to grow and get better, or if they're just not up to the task. Because the further you get away from that national championship winning coaching staff and what they instilled, the harder it's going to be to maintain that level of, what they had. Big part of it, strength and conditioning. You had Herbert, which was one of the best strength and conditioning guys that we've ever seen. He was amazing at Wisconsin. He was amazing at Michigan. How do you continue to maintain that level, or is it going to kind of fade off as you get further removed from it? So I think there's a lot to be said for this year where people are just chalking them up. Oh, they're going to win 10 games or whatever. And I kind of look at it like, are they? Because we don't know that this is a lock. Ryan's kind of had the perspective that it's Michigan. And I look at it and say, well, what was it under Rich Rod and under Brady Hoke? It was still Michigan then. They stunk. Like, there's a lot of this is going to come down to how good is the coaching staff. You can have talent and you can suck. We've seen it with tons of SEC schools. The difference there is coaching.
Yeah, I think your point about coaching is a very good one. Sharon Moore going to be in his second season. I mean, you're right about the further you get away from it, the harder it is. The one thing they have is talent. You saw that last year. Their defense was really, really good. Their run defense especially. I mean, Ohio State, and Jerry said it, like they were just running into the line. They're running into the teeth of that Michigan defense. They were crazy. That's why they only scored 10 points. I don't know what the hell Ryan Day was doing. But nonetheless, Bryce Underwood's the thing to talk about here. I mean, he is their new 5-star. We saw it last year with Dylan Raiola. Jerry mentioned this as well. I think that Dylan Raiola is a really good comparison. He's going to flash. You're going to see Bryce Underwood play incredible football. You're also going to see him make freshman mistakes, and that's okay. We have
do stupid things that you're like, what the heck was that?
Right. We have to take advantage of that. And I thought that it was really interesting that he talked about the O-line and putting pressure on Bryce Underwood, which is exactly what you do with the freshman quarterback. Do we have the line to do that? That's obviously been one of our biggest talking points all summer. And so I think that's something to look at. But he also mentioned the receivers not being able to get separation. I think that's an interesting point where, we have some speedsters back there. I mean, Ricardo Holman is a fast guy. You've got a lot of guys there is speed in the secondary. Not to say
those guys can cover,
but we can cover those guys, right? We're not going to cover Jeremiah Smith. Nobody's trying to cover. Nobody's
exactly. This is a game where I feel like we match up very well with what they have at the skill positions.
The question is
nobody that I'm afraid of. This game to me is make or break Michigan's running game. Like, if they can't run the football against us, we should win this game. But because I think we're much more diverse than them overall in terms of what we have at the skill positions.
Can we, though? Can we run the ball against them? Like, that's my biggest thing is like that defensive front is no joke. And you heard him say it. Clearly the best strength of their team is that front seven. Like that's going to be very hard to deal with.
You're going to have to be balanced. We're not going to be able to just run the football down their throat. You're going to have to make them guess what you're going to do. And if you're capable of, this is where having a coach like Grimes comes in handy, because he will do things that will make you have to be disciplined. And if Michigan isn't disciplined in this game, that's where you're going to have to take advantage of, because you can't skill to skill them. Like I think our offensive line is a couple of years away from being a dominant line. Like it's got a lot of young guys that I think are going to be really good, but they're not quite there yet. I think the running backs are going to be better than they've been in the last couple of years, but I think we're maybe a year away from them looking like stars. So you're going to have to find things in the passing game. You're going to have to do some things that you're creative and get kind of cute with this, where you're going to mess with their eyes. And I think you have a quarterback that, if this offensive line can continue to be a good pass blocking offensive line like it was last year, he's capable of doing some things. Like, you're going to have receivers that will get open. I think Jaden Ballard will get open because he's going to be faster than probably whoever's covering him. But whether or not he's going to be able to do it consistently throughout the entire game, that's the bigger question. You're going to have to find moments where you make plays.
So 2 questions, Justin. One, he made a 9-3 prediction for Michigan, which I thought was interesting. I think if you look at their schedule, it's kind of fair. They don't have the toughest schedule. 1, do you agree with that? And 2, what is your confidence in Wisconsin going into Ann Arbor and getting a win?
I honestly don't see them having a significantly better offense this year. And I think we're going to find out real quick whether that defense is as good as it was in the interior overall. They lost a lot of defensive line talent.
Yeah.
And it will be very interesting to see if they can stack up and hold up long-term over the course of the season, or if those guys wear down. So my gut instinct on it, I would probably say closer to an 8-4. I think they're going to be roughly around where they were last year, because I don't know if they're dynamic enough offensively that even if they have a good defense, that it's going to carry them. Like the Big Ten is not a pushover conference. Like, you were 7-5 last year, and that was with a win over Ohio State. So I don't think that the talent gap there is what they think it is. And I don't know that you're going to be able to look at the quarterback play and say, we can rely on this for our offense to be significantly better.
The reason I say 9-3 is in play for them really is because they're scheduled. They play Oklahoma. Yes. They play Ohio State at home, and they play Nebraska. They play us. Like, they don't play Ohio State. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Penn State. So I do think that there's room for them.
There's a road for it. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like Ryan says too, like, they are Michigan, and I do see that from their defense. Like, yeah, they lost people, but they reloaded too. They reloaded heavily with big guys, with strong guys, with high level transfers, new recruits. Like, they're going to be a loaded team, but they can be had. My confidence going into this is under 50%. Probably it's like, maybe 45-50. Like, it's close. I think this is a 50-50 game for us. If we can look a little bit better against Alabama, potentially. They're playing Oklahoma. If we come out in the first 2 games and dominate, we beat Maryland, we should be 3-1 clearly after the first 4. Then there's the bye week. Then there's Michigan. And we're going to know a lot about this team after those first 4 weeks. As of now, I do feel like it's a 50-50 game, and we can get it done, but we'll see. All right. So we'll be back again. These are a little bit out of order. We got Maryland that we kind of skipped over, working on some other interviews from other folks as well. But it's nice to kind of hear from someone who knows that program inside and out. We will be back again this upcoming weekend, of course, for another show. And then next week is Big Ten Media Days, and I'm going to be there covering that, which is going to be fantastic. Thanks for joining us, and as always, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.